At UMC, access to your healthcare is only a call away. Dial 74-NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses, 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
And welcome in everyone to RedRaiders.com. I am Zach Long with Don Williams and Krista Pirtle, and this is the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. The Texas Tech Red Raiders are set to face Kansas in Lawrence this Saturday. Of course, we'll be up there. And when you're talking about the Kansas Jayhawks, guys, Charlie likes to be very macabre about his football team, referring to them as a pile of crap at Big 12 Media Days. But Don, that pile of crap, as he has so affectionately called them, is getting better, and you can see Kansas is close to figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, they were competitive. Really, they've been very competitive the last 2 years against Texas Tech. Gave Tech all it wanted, both in Lawrence and in Lubbock. And then last week, knocks off Louisiana Tech, which I don't think Louisiana Tech is as good as they've been in the last year or two. But still, 13-10 victory over La Tech is it's a pretty good win for that program.
And Krista, they had to do it with a walk-off field goal at the last second, but still, when you're KU, you'll take it where you can get it and try to build off of that.
Absolutely, and Kansas is still the power running game. They've been doing that, but also with BYU transfer quarterback Heaps, he's completed quite a few passes, which is more than Kansas has done in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think he's definitely an upgrade for them. Now that we've had a few games to look at the Red Raiders, of course, their one conference win over TCU, and now they've closed out the non-conference portion of their schedule, I want to take a look at a make-or-break scenario. Now that we've seen kind of some of the compositional elements of the other teams in the Big 12, I want to ask you two, what is the make-or-break subject matter that's going to lead to success or failure in the Big 12 for Texas Tech? Don?
I'll go with kind of an obvious choice, Zach, but I think it's quarterback play, and that's you have an unfortunate situation, obviously, with being forced to play two true freshman guys who probably should be redshirting this year in an ideal situation. Now they've certainly handled it well to get Texas Tech to 4-0 at this point, but we started to see last couple of weeks against TCU and again against Texas State that it's still not the ideal situation with guys trying to learn on the job, get up to speed, and get on the same page with the receivers. And add into that offensive line has been kind of spotty so far, and I think this team will. It looks like the defense is going to give you an opportunity to stay in and possibly win most games, but you can't have quarterbacks putting the ball on the ground, throwing interceptions, and you got to be able to have them involving all your key people, including like an Eric Ward, who has disappeared at times in this offense.
Krista, what's the make or break point for you?
With so much parity in this league this year, I think it's to do the little things best. And with that, it's penalties. I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. Tech will have big plays where they gain a lot of yards or they'll score, then it has to be called back. Look back in the SMU game. Baker ran for a 1-yard touchdown. Holding penalty called him back. They had to kick a field goal. SFA, Tech was at 3-4. Oops, a penalty of 10 yards kicked him back to 3-14, and then they had to punt the ball. Then TCU, after DeAndre dropped the ball on the half-yard line, Tech could have spotted up there to score that touchdown, but no, a penalty put him back 15 yards. And it just goes on and on. Tech needs to, when they make those good plays, when the freshman quarterbacks make the right play and gain yards, they don't need to move backwards.
Yeah, Krista, they've gotten away with those penalties thus far because they've won football games, but as they get into the Big 12 conference schedule, they won't get away with that against better competition. Now looking further more into the Kansas Jayhawks.
Zach, I got a question for you.
What's up, man?
Now, you're talk about Kansas. You're a small-town guy from Kansas. You grew up there.
Yes, I did.
I know you like to hunt.
Yes,
you have some guns. And I wondered, did you ever hunt a Jayhawk? Did you ever shoot a Jayhawk? Did Jayhawks even exist?
Don, that is a hell of a question. I'm actually glad you asked that. I kind of anticipated that this week you were going to drop that on me. So, when I'm not irritating you two with Texas Tech football questions, I actually host a hunting and outdoor show called West Texas Outdoor Adventures. So I thought, what better way this week than to answer the question of, is there a Jayhawk, by going out and finding out myself. Don Williams asked us, is the Jayhawk real? Is it a real bird or is it fictitious? Well, we figured since we have a hunting and outdoor show, one way we could figure that out. That's to get out there in the field and see if we could find one.
Some say it's a giant fictitious bird, but local legend has it, it's real. They can be really mean and grow really large.
You know, I figure if this thing is real, it's probably a jacked up cross between a turkey and a chicken, you know, that fell in a bucket of paint. So I figured corn would be the obvious choice for a bait, so that's what we're gonna go with.
You know, this whole thing started out as a joke, but things got really serious really fast. Oh my God, bro. Look right over there.
Dude, that sure as hell looks like a Kansas Jayhawk to me.
What's he doing?
Looks like he's watching highlights of the 1988 national title game in basketball.
You know, it's a giant red, blue, and yellow bird with shoes on. Is it really that far-fetched that it has a computer?
Holy cow, man, he's going straight for the corn.
I'm ready, man. I'm on him.
Wait a minute, I think he sees us.
Hey, I can see you sitting over there. How about you two go ahead?
You know, we learned 3 things right then and there. Number 1, a Kansas Jayhawk is real.
Number 2, they can talk. And number 3, they have a very foul mouth.
What the hell? I just froze. What the hell was that? What's wrong with that thing? I'm so disappointed in myself.
It's okay, bro. We'll get him.
Dude, the hell it is. My focus isn't where it should be. I gotta go.
Where are you going?
I need a moment to myself, man.
Zach's very hard on himself. He wants to get a kill every time. I know it's best just to let him go and seek a new vision. This time, it's personal.
I must seek a vision to right this wrong. It became clear what I had done wrong with this bird. I thought this was a game animal, so I treated it as such. I must dig deep, back to my childhood in Kansas, and become one with the Jayhawk.
I know how to defeat this bird. Chad, it's Zach. I know how to take this bird down. I'm gonna need you to bring a couple things out here and meet me as soon as possible. Did you get it, man?
Got it, man. Final 4 tickets and a list of all the 5-star basketball recruits in the nation.
Damn right. Time to dance with this Jayhawk.
That's right. It didn't take long from that point. This time, Zach's got this bird figured out.
When it came down to it, I knew no Jayhawk can resist Final 4 tickets and a list of 5-star recruiting phone numbers.
Holy crap, man, he's hopping around like a spider monkey on Mountain Dew. Can you get a shot?
I don't know, man. That thing's going freaking nuts. I can't get him to hold still.
Hey!
We couldn't get a shot. That bird was going absolutely nuts over that bait. I didn't know how we were ever going to be able to put it down, and then it hit me. I knew there was one way to make that bird hold still, and as much as it was going to pain Chad and I to have to do it, I knew it had to be done.
Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Guns up, Jayhawk.
You know, They say revenge is sweet, but in my mind, a dead, fictitious mascot bird is even sweeter.
Hell yeah! Yeah! Jayhawk down. That's how we roll in Texas.
Later.
Let's see what we got.
Yep.
Woo, doggy.
Yep.
Man,
Nailed it.
bona fide Kansas Jayhawk right there.
Indeed.
It's our first one. Pretty good day out in the field, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so. Very good.
Outstanding. Well,
Got your kill.
we have harvested a Kansas Jayhawk. As you can see, no Jayhawks were actually harmed during the making of this video. He is perfectly fine, and he'll be at the game on Saturday to watch the Red Raiders take on Kansas.
What's wrong with you?
You know, we don't have enough showtime or internet space to describe everything that is wrong with me. Don?
But hey, I guess at least you answered my question.
Hey,
Although I'm not sure yet. Well, we saw it on screen though. I guess the
Hey,
Jayhawk it actually is a
documentation
bird that
hunting
exists.
shows don't lie, Don.
We saw it.
That's what I'm here for, to serve you. Now on to a more serious subject matter actually pertaining to the Kansas Jayhawk football team and Texas Tech this week. A question that has been raised this week at the Monday press conference, guys, and actually something Don wrote about in the paper and online. They said we might jinx people by talking about this. Was one of the commenters' comments on your story today, Don. But does Texas Tech start 7-0? And of course, to get to that point, that would require wins over Kansas, Iowa State, and West Virginia. Krista, I will start with you.
They can go 7-0, but they won't. Tech is fully capable of doing it, but I think especially after West Virginia's win at home over Oklahoma State, it's going to be very tough to go into Mountaineer territory and get a win out. And also, West Virginia's loss to Maryland where they didn't score, that was very misleading because in 6 out of 17 offensive possessions, they ended with offensive turnovers, all in prime territory for Maryland. And so I think that West Virginia and Texas Tech are both very similar in the fact that they are both defensive teams. So it's going to be a tough call, but I think that the Mountaineers will trip them up.
You know, for me, Krista, when I look at this, if you asked me this question in this scenario last year under Tommy Tuberville and that regime, my answer would be very quickly, no. They just had so many X factors that could go wrong last year and lead to a team that could get beat like that. You know, they got drilled by Iowa State 2 years ago down here in Lubbock. This team under Cliff Kingsbury, I think they will get to 7-0 going into Norman. I think they will take care of business. They are way too focused on that 390 yards rushing mark they gave up to Kansas last year. They're very focused. Iowa State is in here. They will be ready to go for that one. And while West Virginia is much better, I love their look under Clint Trickett at quarterback. Texas Tech, that is a marquee step-up game for them. They destroyed West Virginia last year with a spread offense and that mantra. This is a lot of the same talent pull back. Even though it will be much tougher in Morgantown, I think Texas Tech gets it done and moves to 7-0. Don, are you buying that subject matter? I'm
kind of like Krista. I think Texas Tech can be 7-0. In fact, I think Texas Tech could very well be favored in all three of these upcoming games. But I don't think it'll happen. And I'm not predicting any particular spot that Tech loses to one of these next three teams. I think it's going to be more difficult to win all three games than people actually anticipate. You look at Kansas. Kansas has given Tech everything that it wanted both of the last 2 years. Up in Lawrence, Tech was behind 20-0. Then here last year, the game goes to double overtime, and the alarm bells go off because Kansas rushed for 390 yards against Tech last year, and you got James Sims back, who had 127 on you. You got Tony Pearson back, who had 202 on you. Then Iowa State plays here, but Paul Rhodes' teams have beaten a ranked Big 12 opponent on the road each of the last 3 years. They did it in Austin in 10, they did it in Fort Worth in 11, and they did it in Lubbock in 11, and they did it in Fort Worth last year. And so his teams have been pretty good on the road, and I think I have a lot of admiration for Paul Rhodes. I think he gets a whole lot of a little bit of talent. And then you go to West Virginia, and you got to make that 1,300-mile flight. You're in a totally new setting. Guys aren't used to it. The other team has the home field advantage. I'll throw in one other thing, and that's that all three of these teams have extra preparation time for Tech. Tech was on the bye week last week, but so was KU, I believe.
Yep.
Iowa State plays on Thursday night this week, so Iowa State is going to have a few extra days to get ready for Tech, and then West Virginia has an open date in front of the Texas Tech game. So all three of these teams have extra prep time for the Red Raiders, and again, two of the three, you got to go win a Big 12 Conference road game, and that's not easy to do. I don't care who the opponent is.
So a tough task indeed, but I think the key point for me is get 2 out of the 3 and get to bowl eligibility. That is a huge step for this football team, and I think will feed in. If they can do that, they're off to a good start, regardless of whether they're 6-1 or 7-0 at that point. Let's focus more in on the game at hand, though. Number 1 in that stretch, Texas Tech at Kansas, Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff in Lawrence, Kansas. I do not expect a feisty environment with late night at the Fog for the basketball team the night before, and plus KU in football, they just don't get as fired up anywhere in the realm as they do for basketball. Let's look at our keys to the game for Texas Tech versus Kansas. Let's start with Krista Pirtle.
I'm going to go with Tech has got to run the ball. This is a very one-dimensional offense. And like Don said, with that the freshman quarterbacks need to be on the game, they need to be better. Well, that's a lot of pressure on them to complete every pass they throw, to get positive yards. They need to have help in the backfield for someone to come get the ball and get 5 or 6 yards. Right now, Tech is 106th in the NCAA in yards per game with rushing, and they really need to get better. I think one key that will help them this week is the return of Bo Carpenter at right guard. He's been out the past few weeks with an injury, so I think his presence will be a big asset.
Krista, the key for me is start fast and start violent. Texas Tech has, they kind of got off to a little slower start last week against Texas State, and something they alluded to and something that we knew was Baker Mayfield was banged up a little bit. He was hurt. Now they're saying he's good to go. He's looked sharp in practice, so I think it is imperative that Texas Tech gets off to a very fast start. It does not take much to get that crowd out of it in Lawrence. Texas Tech's got to go in there and not do something like they did 2 years ago and get down 20-0. They may not recover from that. They need to punch fast, and Baker Mayfield needs to prove that I am okay, I am ready to go. And if you get off to that big start and get that crowd over it, they could easily roll in Lawrence, Don.
Yeah. For me, I think it's defense has to help the offense, and you do that by defending the run, which Tech, again, as I've alluded to earlier, they didn't do that last year in that game here in Lubbock. James Sims, for as little as Kansas has going for it, one thing it does have going for it is one of the best running backs, maybe as good a running back as there is in the Big 12 when you're talking James Sims. That guy played in 9 games last year, and 6 of them he ran for 100 yards or more. Wow. One of those was here in Lubbock. And he's a senior, he's back. I don't anticipate that KU will rush for 390 yards like they did last year, but they are capable, and so Tech Tech has to. Yeah, and I know Matt Wallerstedt has been harping on this all week that that can't happen again. I'm sure he has some schemes and some ideas, some tactics in mind to keep it from happening again. But I think that's the whole key for the Red Raiders is don't let KU keep the ball all day and run up 35 minutes worth of time of possession and have long, slow drives to keep your offense off the field.
Absolutely. That is going to wrap up our look at keys to the game for Texas Tech versus Kansas. We'll be right back here on the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show for a look at the Big 12 slate, and we'll get down to predicting Texas Tech and Kansas.
For complete coverage of Texas Tech football on your iPad, download the Game Day app from AJ Media. Full coverage of each game with in-depth stories and videos. Find rosters, depth charts, and stats to get you ready each week. Also, recruiting coverage from Reckham 24/7. The Game Day app from AJ Media.
And welcome back, everyone, to the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. Let's take a look at the Big 12 slate of games this week, a slate comprised of completely conference games for once as we get into the bulk of Big 12 play. Let's start first with the Thursday night game in Ames, Iowa. Mac Brown and the Texas Longhorns visit the Cyclones. I'll start with Krista.
I'm going to go with Texas in this one. I know Iowa State is starting to get their roll on and start to get things going, but I think that Texas, David Ash, Case McCoy, they can get things done up in Ames.
This game is going to go extremely fast with the way these two teams run the ball. It's going to be possessions. Don't make a turnover and you're going to be in control. And for that reason, I think I got to lean with Texas. They got a little bit more veteran kids running the ball in the backfield. I think Texas gets this done. Don?
In some little different circumstances, I might take Iowa State in this one, but the thing that worries me about picking an upset here is Iowa State's offense has not convinced me yet that they're able to do enough to upset the Longhorns. They weren't very good the first couple of games. The JUCO transfer running back Wimberly had a good game last week, but I'm still not sure Iowa State can score enough points to knock off the Longhorns up there, so I'm taking Texas.
The next game, a very intriguing matchup, even more so after last week's results. Kansas State at Oklahoma State, Krista.
I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. I feel like they are pretty upset from last week's loss, and they're going to use that as motivation, a huge chip on their shoulder to go out and get things done against Kansas State. So I think that the Okies are going to get this one.
You know, I think a much improved effort from Oklahoma State. They've got a horrible sour taste in their mouth after that loss at West Virginia. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And Kansas State, to succeed, I think they're really going to have to make a switch at quarterback and stay permanently with Sams. He is a more mobile athlete and cause more destruction. I just don't know if Bill Snyder is going to make that move at this point, and because of that, I'm going to say Oklahoma State at home. Don?
I'm with both of you guys. Bounce back game for Oklahoma State. I'll take the Cowboys in this one.
The next one, guys, turned out to be one of the most entertaining games in the country last year. West Virginia-Baylor, this version in Waco. Krista?
I'm going with Baylor in this one. They're bringing out the chrome helmets that look fantastic. They are not very happy about giving up 70 points last year, and the defense has really come a long way so far in this season, and the offense has gone pretty quickly, so I think that Baylor will pull this one out.
You know, for me, if it turns into an offensive onslaught like it did last year, simple fact, Baylor's offense is more able to score quickly than what West Virginia is. Even with an improved quarterback situation under Clint Trickett, I think Baylor wins this game, maybe in the range of 2 to 3 touchdowns. Don?
Yeah, I think Baylor can score 63 points. I have no question about that. I'm not sure West Virginia can score 70 points, either Saturday or in October, period. So, yeah, Baylor's pretty handily.
And the next one, guys, TCU at Oklahoma. Of course, the Sooners coming off a win over Notre Dame. They're now the Big 12's highest-ranked team if you're into the whole thing with the polls. Krista?
Oklahoma has looked really good so far. They look great against the Irish up at Notre Dame, and I really think that they're going to continue to take that momentum throughout the rest of the season. So Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think the defense will get after Javon Boykin pretty heavily there, and Blake Bell continues to grow as a signal caller and a game management tactician at quarterback. Oklahoma rolls in that one. Don?
Yeah, TCU can't afford to lose if they want to win a Big 12 title, and you know a lot of people pick them up there really high, but hey, it's going to happen. They're going to lose. I don't see them beating the Sooners in Norman. I got OU.
That is a look at the rest of the Big 12 Conference. Now let's get down to the game at hand. Texas Tech ventures into Lawrence, Kansas to take on the Jayhawks. Of course, Kansas 2-1. They're coming off a win over Louisiana Tech. The Red Raiders, of course, undefeated, ranked in the Associated Press and USA Today coaches poll. Last year, 390 yards for Kansas rushing guys. That sets the stage for a very intriguing matchup, but different coaches who are very familiar with each other. I'll start with Krista.
I'm going to go Tech with this one. 24-20, a little lower score, a little closer than most people would like. But one thing that's interesting, Coach Weiss said that in preparation for this game, he's watching film of Kingsbury when he played, because he says that that offense and the offense that Tech runs now is very similar. And so I think that even though he knows that, I think that the offense will start to get things clicking again with Baker being healthy, and then also the defense is going to make some stops. They say that their goal each game is to hold each opponent to 3.3 yards per rush, and right now they're at 3.4. So I think also with all the rush yards that they gave up last year, it's going to be huge motivation to keep them down.
You know, last season, Charlie Weiss, I thought, had a brilliant game plan when he came in here with a quarterback who wasn't expected to be their starting quarterback. He did a great job calling that game. They put a ton of pressure on Tech's defense. I know this is a different defensive coordinator. They've been focusing on that heavily all week, and that will have a huge impact. I do, however, think Kansas will have success running the ball, and because of that, I think the score will be a little bit lower, and I think Kansas will get on the scoreboard. But for me, Texas Tech offensively, too many weapons. Louisiana Tech fumbled twice going into the end zone last week. Any of those things go an inch the other way, and we're not even talking about a 2-1 Kansas team. We're talking about a 1-2 Kansas team. Because of that, I'm going to go with a more experienced Texas Tech offense. I do think it'll be lower scoring, though, 35-21 Texas Tech. Don?
I'm probably closer to Krista even than you. I agree that's going to be, I think we're all on board that it's going to be a lower scoring game. To me, the Texas Tech offense is still a concern when you're talking about scoring 20 points in that TCU game, and only 33 against against Texas State. I know 33 sounds like a reasonably high number, but it's Texas State. That's the kind of team that you expect to score 50 against. I still think the offense is a concern. And I have the Red Raiders winning an uncomfortably close 30-24 game on Saturday in Lawrence. Again, they haven't blown these guys out the last couple of years, so until they actually do it, I don't think I'm going to predict it.
So in other words, we're all saying that you better watch all 4 quarters of that game in Lawrence between Texas Tech and the Kansas Jayhawks. That's going to do it, though, for this episode of the UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. We have a lot of coverage coming up this week before we depart for Lawrence, Kansas, Don's favorite town in America. You hate that place, don't you?
I like Lawrence okay. There are other towns that I like much less than Lawrence.
Does it rhyme with Boston, only with an A?
It does, yeah, it does rhyme with
Boston.
Boston.
How that works out. We'll be up there, though, with full coverage. We'll have our Road Rage episode, of course, and that's where I want you to tune into, because Don's Dining Tip, we're moving into a very special edition of Road Rage this week. We're going to do something on the way to Kansas, I guarantee you. That will be entertaining, and of course we'll have lots of other coverage of Kansas and Texas Tech over at LubbockOnline.com and RedRaiders.com. For Don Williams and Chris DePertle, I'm Zach Long. We'll see you up there.